I'm in New York City, having a fantastic time, and I got my man China Mac. Don't you go nowhere.
Ruslan.
Yo, what's going on? It's Ruslan with KingsDreamENT.com. This channel exists to encourage and inspire you to live out God's dream for your life. And we got a special guest today. I'm in New York. Man, one of the most entertaining people on the internet. Fascinating story. This interview will not be censored. So, you know, if you're sensitive to explicit language, hide your kids, hide your wife, but it's all good. Nevertheless, I got my man, China Mac. How you feeling, man?
What's going on? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for making this happen.
No doubt. Thank you for having me.
So me and you met briefly at South by Southwest weekend. I had just seen your Vlad TV interview. That's initially how I discovered you. You was on Vlad. And there was a story, you had retold a story of a situation you and Jin had got into. And then fast forward, just this July, beautiful, tight reconciliation. You had this amazing interview at actually the homie Ja Rockin' studio. What was that like, kind of coming full circle and like connecting with the homie Jin?
It was cool. You know, it showed growth. It showed me that I grew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most importantly, it showed my mother that I grew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was a big part of why I did that. And you know, I felt good about it.
Yeah, that's dope, man. You are originally from this area. People have seen your story on, you know, Vlad. You grew up involved with the street stuff, did some serious time, and now you've transitioned into being this like entrepreneur, YouTuber, creative rapper. And I was telling you earlier, like, I feel like what you're doing is going to become the blueprint of how artists are going to have to function. Do you feel like that multidimensional layer of you has always been there? Is that something that comes from the street element, or did you have to adjust to the times?
I think that spirit was always in me. Mm-hmm. Like you pointed out, I guess I picked it up from the street, mm-hmm. because when you're in the street, you gotta do different things. Like, you know, you have to be fast, and one thing might fall off, and you might have to just move around. Mm-hmm. So I think I learned, I picked it up there. I think I honed it while I was in prison. And when I'm out here, I wasn't even planning on doing all this extra stuff. It's just I'm keen to opportunities, mm-hmm. you know? So I think that's one of the blessings that I have, one of the strengths that I have. Because I'm keen to opportunities, and I can see when something is an opportunity. And I also, when I have ideas, they say we sit down and we're just like, oh, you should do that. And if I really feel like it's something I should do, mm-hmm. like within a couple of days, you're gonna see me doing it, mm-hmm. right? So I guess
that's dope.
That's just something that I'm blessed with.
Yeah, yeah. So you in a way was like the mid to late thousands, and then when did you get out?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
2002.
2000, and then you got out what year?
I got out 2015.
2015. So when you got out, you basically got out and you saw this new world of opportunity with the technology, and essentially just figured out a way to finesse it, really, to turn it into a hustle.
Yeah, well, definitely. Before I went to prison, for the most part, internet wasn't really there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had like AOL.
Yeah.
You had like MySpace that was out there, but that was it. Mm-hmm. So when I came home, it was like everything. We didn't have the phones mm-hmm. with the computer. With the internet and stuff like that. So when I came out, I really had to just. So this is what happened. I came out, and I took a whole year. Just like kind of watching and like kind of prepping my stuff, my music career. Then I after my first year, like within the year mark, mm-hmm. I put out my first song.
Okay.
And that was a song called Baku, where I was talking about I was like in light of the Eric Garner.
Okay.
And all of the shootings that was going on with the with the police and the people, and I came out with a song called Baku Cop. Basically, you know, I mean the name explains itself, and that got me in trouble, right? So I ended up going back to jail. I was home for 2 years. I ended up going back to jail for 16-month parole violation.
Because of the record?
Well, not necessarily because of the record, but that record got me hot.
Okay.
And they just found like a curfew violation or something dumb. Okay. And just gave me 16 months.
Ah.
Right. And regularly they wouldn't give you that much, but they can if they want. So that's what they did. And then so up to that time, I really wasn't utilizing the social media like that. I would be on Instagram, I post a picture, but that was before they even had live on Instagram. They had Periscope at that time, but nobody was really watching that. So they had like so what happened was I went back upstate for 16 months, but by this time I already saw the landscape of the internet. Okay. And how I could possibly finagle my way. Before that, I really didn't know the terrain. Like I didn't know. I could read all the books, all the Gary Vee books, and all of whatever I want, but I didn't know it myself. Yep. So I had 16 months now to really sit down and really like figure it out. Now I knew I knew what it looks like and you know what I could do out there. So the 16 months was really like a blessing because I had time to really like map out what I wanted to do. So when I came out, I just started going at it. And
an acquaintance of mine from high school, his name's Wes Watson. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He does like the YouTube prison talk videos called GP. And there's a whole like plethora of these guys that do these like prison stories to help people prevent kids from going to prison. They're real raw. So Wes talks a lot about programming your routine, you know, until this day, I think the dude still gets up at like 3 a.m., 2:45 in the morning and does his burpees and reads his books and does his meditations. It's awesome. Like you make the time count or the time is going to do you, you know. Is that something that you were intentional about the longer stint, or towards the end you started getting into the program and into the routine, training your mind, conditioning your body, preparing yourself to transition out?
I was kind of preparing it from the time when I figured out that I would have light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. Because in the beginning, I was eligible for life because that was like my third violent felony. Okay. You know, technically, but because of a technicality, like you know, they couldn't count me as I couldn't get life. Right. But for a whole year and a half, I was on Rikers Island. I was responding like I was gonna get life. So I was like fighting, cutting people, and doing all types of just because I felt like I didn't have anything to lose. So once they told me that I would have a year, like I have a time to go home. Like it's 10 years, but still you have a date. You know what I'm saying? Versus like, all right, you don't have a date. There's no date, yeah. So then I wouldn't give a fuck. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? At that time, I wouldn't care to change. Yeah. So once they gave me my date, then I went upstate. I got in trouble. You know, I'm always like on the fence, like always like, you know, just I could find myself in a bunch of, but I was always smart enough to like, you know, do the other things too. So when I went in prison, I was in like, I utilized all the programs they had there. Like if they had college in the prison, I would be a part of it. They had acting program, like a play, like a rehabilitation through the arts, they call it, which they put on like big plays, like big, you know, productions. And I was a part of that. I was a part of a bunch of stuff, and I always used my time. Like I read books, but I also like, I kept the hustle alive. I was in there. Anybody that was with me will tell you that I had like a million hustles in there, right? And I always was very like progressive with thinking of different ways to make things happen. And a lot of times it didn't happen. Like, you know, like a lot of times, like for instance, are you familiar with Tragedy Gaddafi?
Yeah. Is that from the Outlaws?
Tragedy, no, there's a tragedy, but Tragedy Gaddafi are you familiar with Noriega?
Yes, okay. That's
all right, so it's a New York group, Component Noriega. Yes. Yeah. So Tragedy is actually, he's an old school rapper, but he was responsible for that album. He came to prison. When he came to the jail I was in Sing Sing. But by that time I had you see, it was something that looked like that. We had like a beat machine.
Okay.
But you can record on it and all that. So we had like a mini studio inside the prison. It was illegal, but I smuggled it in. I was able to get it in, and I was able to have like the officers like really just turn a blind eye to it. So we would be in the basement of the school building in a maximum state prison, recording, making music and all that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we sent the song to Hot 97. They played it. But what I'm saying is just, I pointed that out just to show you that, like, I was always thinking of different ways to, and although sometimes a lot of that stuff didn't even matriculate into anything, but it did help me keep my like that spirit alive, right? It didn't die, you know what I mean? Because I was always like, you know, like moving and shaking and trying to figure something out. Yeah. So when I came home, it was the same thing, and now there's more opportunities, and I feel like a lot of people aren't like. They don't think like me, or they're not like hungry, or they just don't, I don't know, they just don't think that it's necessary for them to do all that stuff. So I feel like that gives me like a major, like a head start, because I'm willing to do whatever. Like, you know.
Were you born here, or was you were born here? Your mom wasn't born here. Your mom was born in Hong Kong.
No, my mom was born in Shanghai. Okay. I was born here, right?
Do you think some of the mentality comes from being the second generation immigrant, like your mom, and that mentality kind of being instilled in you to see opportunity? You know what I'm saying? Do you think that? Because I wasn't born here. I was born in Azerbaijan, Baku, so I came out here as a refugee when I was 6. Yeah. And I feel like there's this thing in common with sons and daughters of immigrants or immigrants where we just see the world mad different. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think so. Yeah, because when you go growing up, you hear how their like perception, like, you know, what they're saying and stuff like that. So when you come out, you see opportunity, because to them it's like, you know, they came straight from over there
with nothing.
With nothing, right? So versus somebody that's born here, and has been here, like, you know, has been here, their perception of the opportunity here is not the same as somebody that comes from a whole different world that doesn't have a quarter of the opportunities that was here. So when you're growing up and you're listening to that, of course, that's gonna have something to do with how you view the world. Right? Yeah.
Kingstream Entertainment.
Julio, 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 Julio Jones. I'm from Atlanta, you throw me the ball and I score in the zone. They hit me up for a deal like it's something I do on the phone. Just cause it's me in the studio don't mean I do it alone. Julio, 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 Julio Jones.